Sometimes Unitarian Universalists get it all wrong. Take, for instance, what is probably the most commonly repeated untruth regarding our faith. I hear it all the time, especially from long-term Unitarian Universalists. And for the last few years, I've occasionally heard it from the mouths of some of our young people when they finish their 2-year coming-of-age program, and that distresses me greatly. If you ask UUs, or Unitarian Universalists, in this congregation or in any other congregation what it means to be a Unitarian Universalist, I bet a bunch of us will say, being a Unitarian Universalist means you can believe anything you want. Being a Unitarian Universalist means you can believe anything you want. Nothing could be farther from the truth. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm all for the spaciousness of thought that we find in our faith. Freedom is important. Freedom of thought is essential to a fulfilled life. Freedom of belief is essential to a mature faith. The Reverend David O. Rankin, a Unitarian Universalist, writes, "Freedom is the ground of all vital activity. Faith without freedom is dogma. Love without freedom is an illusion. Justice without freedom is oppression. Freedom is the indispensable element for growth and wholeness." But freedom by itself, untethered and ungrounded, teeters on the chaotic. A faith that is totally free threatens to become irresponsible or irrelevant. A completely free faith is simply not what Unitarian Universalism tries to be. Years ago, when I pledged my allegiance to the Unitarian Universalist faith, I had a dickens of a time trying to explain it to my staunch Roman Catholic mother. Part of her confusion came from my giddy focus on all the things Unitarian Universalism didn't require of me. It didn't ask me to swear to a set creed or doctrine that somebody else had determined. It didn't require me to make a tithe of 10% of my income to the church, although now I sure wish that it did. It didn't threaten hell and damnation for any number of sins, including loving my male partner. It didn't saturate me with guilt if I missed an occasional Sunday service. It didn't ask me to check my rational mind at the door in order to claim something spiritual. "You've told me all the things this UU faith isn't," my mom quipped. "Can you tell me one thing that it is? Can you tell me one thing that it is?" "It's a religion where we love everyone and everything," I replied. "So it's a faith that doesn't demand discernment?" she asked. "It's a faith that finds the worth in all spiritual paths. So it's a faith that offers nothing of its own. It's a religion where I can believe whatever it is that I discover to be true. So it's a faith that doesn't challenge you to meet anything other than your own needs or your own thoughts or your own wants." I remained silent. "It sounds rather wishy-washy to me," she finally said. Mom had a point. If we don't understand what our true chosen faith truly encompasses, it can come off as a kind of feel-good self-indulgence. The Reverend David O. Rankin writes, "A religion that promises life without tension, a life without conflict, is a religion of passivity, a religion of mediocrity, a religion of insignificance." To that, I'd add, A religion that looks only to the self as the arbiter of truth is a religion that doesn't know where it is coming from or where it is going. It is a religion that has no collective purpose in the world. Now, just because Unitarian Universalism doesn't have a rigid structure doesn't mean there is no structure at all. Just because Unitarian Universalism doesn't have a rigid set of beliefs doesn't mean that there are no beliefs at all. Just because Unitarian Universalism has an open embrace doesn't mean that any belief is welcome here. Just because Unitarian Universalism affirms us as individuals doesn't mean that our own mind is the be-all and the end-all of religious discernment. Our faith is rooted in radical beliefs, revolutionary concepts about divinity and humanity and the nature of life that reach way back several thousand years. Timeless truths taught by our Unitarian and Universalist forebears are at the core of our faith. These core beliefs are anchored in this present day and age by what we call our 7 principles and purposes. These 7 principles and purposes are not inconsequential vagaries. They are 7 specific action statements, 7 specific mission statements that, if we really guided our day by them, would cause us to upend our lives and upend the world around us. These are those 7 radical, revolutionary, clarion calls of conscience and commitment. First, we affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person. We affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person, even the people you don't like. We affirm and promote justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. We affirm and promote justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. We affirm and promote acceptance of one another, and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations. We affirm and promote a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. We affirm and promote the right of conscience and the use of the democratic process within our congregations and in society at large. We affirm and promote the goal of a world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. And lastly, we affirm and promote respect for the interdependent web of all existence, of which we are a part. This is the heart of our faith. We are called not just to affirm these, which is easy and feel good. We are called by our statements to promote them, to actively promote them in our home, in our workplace, in our neighborhood, our town, our state, our country, and in our world, to promote them. I guess it's safe to say our faith is a promotional faith. And if our own beliefs are not in sympathy with any of these 7, then this Unitarian Universalist faith is not a place for us. I can't be here. You can't be here. We can't be here and simply believe whatever we want. Our own search for truth and meaning must be guided by these 7 religious principles. My mom used to say, there ain't no such thing as a free lunch. Well, I'd echo that and say, there ain't no such thing as a free search.